October 26, 1942, 3:30 a.m., Guadalcanal. Platoon Sergeant Mitchell Paige feels the ground shake. Through the darkness and rain, he hears them coming. Thousands of them. Japanese soldiers screaming "Banzai" as they charge up the ridge toward his position. Henderson Field is 1,500 yards behind him. If his line breaks, if the Japanese break through, they'll overrun the airfield by dawn. The entire Guadalcanal campaign depends on Henderson Field. Without it, the Marines can't operate. Aircraft. Without aircraft, the Navy can't supply the island. Without supplies, 20,000 Marines will be cut off and destroyed. Everything depends on holding this ridge. Everything depends on Mitchell Paige and 32 men with 4 Browning M1917 machine guns. The Japanese have 3,000 soldiers in the assault force. Maybe more. Nobody knows exactly. What everyone knows is that in 90 minutes, 31 of Paige's men will be dead or wounded. The machine guns will be silent. The Japanese will be 50 yards from breakthrough, and Mitchell Paige will be alone on that ridge, surrounded by corpses, operating a machine gun so hot the metal is blistering his hands. He won't retreat. He won't surrender. He'll grab another gun, then another, then another. Loading, firing, moving between positions so fast the Japanese think they're facing an entire company. When the machine guns fail, he'll use a pistol. When the pistol runs dry, he'll use a rifle. When the rifle jams, he'll pick up another machine gun and lead a counterattack with 17 Marines who shouldn't even be there. By dawn, 1,400 Japanese soldiers will be dead on that ridge. The attack will be broken, Henderson Field will be saved, and Mitchell Paige will earn the Medal of Honor for the most sustained individual defense in Marine Corps history. All because he refused to accept that 32 men couldn't stop 3,000. Mitchell Paige was born August 31, 1918, in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, coal country, the kind of town where boys go into the mines at 14 and die at 40 with black lung and broken bodies. Paige's father was a coal miner. His grandfather was a coal miner. The trajectory seemed inevitable, but 1918 was also the year World War I ended. American soldiers came home with stories, not stories about coal dust and darkness, but stories about France, about seeing the world, about being something more than what your father was. Young Mitchell listened. He grew up during the Depression, watched grown men stand in soup lines, watched families lose everything, watched the mines close and reopen and close again. By the time he turned 17, he'd made a decision. He wasn't going into the mines. September 1936. Mitchell Paige walks into the Marine Corps recruiting office in Baltimore, Maryland. He's 18 years old, 5'10", 165 pounds. Average height, average build, nothing remarkable. The recruiter looks at him. Why the Marines? Paige thinks about coal mines, about his father's cough, about dying in darkness. I want to be something different. The recruiter nods. You will be, or you'll wash out. Most do. Marine Corps recruit training in 1936 is 10 weeks of controlled brutality. Paris Island, South Carolina. August heat and Carolina humidity. Drill instructors who've been breaking boys since World War I. They run you until you collapse. They march you until your feet bleed. They scream insults so creative you'd laugh if you had the energy. The purpose isn't just physical conditioning, it's psychological transformation. They're erasing the civilian and building a Marine. Someone who will hold position when every instinct screams to run. Someone who will charge machine guns because a corporal said to. Someone who will die before letting down the man beside him. Paige doesn't wash out. He graduates recruit training, gets assigned to infantry training, then weapons training. The Marine Corps in 1936 is tiny, only 18,000 men, smaller than the new York City Police Department. But what they lack in size, they make up for in standards. Every Marine is a rifleman first. Every Marine can march 20 miles with full pack. Every Marine knows that the Corps will send them to the worst places on Earth and expect miracles. Paige specializes in machine guns. The Browning M1917, water-cooled, belt-fed, firing 30 .06 Springfield rounds at 450 per minute. Effective range 1,500 yards. The M1917 weighs 103 pounds with tripod, water, and ammunition. It takes a crew of 6 to operate effectively. Gunner, assistant gunner, 4 ammunition carriers. In combat, that crew can lay down sustained fire that will shred an infantry assault. The Japanese call it the American woodpecker for the distinctive sound. They learn to fear it. By 1941, Paige is a corporal. He's spent 5 years in the Corps. He's trained in Panama, Puerto Rico, Cuba. He's earned expert rifleman qualification. He knows the M1917 like some men know their wives. He can assemble it blindfolded. He can clear jams in darkness. He can estimate range by sound and adjust fire by watching tracers. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Paige hears the news over the radio. The Japanese have attacked. America is at war. Within days, the Marine Corps begins expanding. New recruits flood the training depots. The peacetime corps of 18,000 will grow to 485,000 by war's end. But in December 1941, trained Marines are precious. Paige gets promoted to sergeant. Then he gets orders. 1st Marine Division, forming at New River, North Carolina. Eventually Camp Lejeune. They're building an amphibious assault force. Nobody knows where they're going. The rumors say Philippines, maybe Wake Island, somewhere in the Pacific where the Japanese are advancing and someone needs to stop them. The training intensifies. Amphibious landings from Higgins boats, live fire exercises, jungle warfare, night operations. The 1st Marine Division is preparing for something big. May 1942. The orders come down. 1st Marine Division is deploying. Destination classified. They board transport ships in Norfolk, Virginia. 16,000 Marines, the largest amphibious force America has ever assembled. The voyage takes 6 weeks. They cross the Atlantic, transit the Panama Canal, cross the Pacific. Nobody tells them where they're going until they're days away. Guadalcanal, a 90-mile-long island in the Solomon chain. Most Americans have never heard of it. The Japanese are building an airfield there. If they finish it, Japanese bombers will control 1,000 miles of ocean. They'll cut the supply line between America and Australia. They'll threaten New Zealand. They could force Australia out of the war. The Joint Chiefs make a decision. Take Guadalcanal. Stop the Japanese advance. Make them fight for every island. The Marines will spearhead the assault. August 7, 1942. The 1st Marine Division storms ashore at Guadalcanal. Paige hits the beach expecting a bloodbath, prepared for machine guns, mortars, massed fire from prepared positions. Instead, they encounter minimal resistance. The Japanese construction workers flee into the jungle. By nightfall, the Marines have captured the unfinished airfield. They name it Henderson Field, after a Marine pilot killed at Midway. The easy part is over. Now comes the nightmare. The Japanese don't abandon Guadalcanal. They reinforce it. The Tokyo Express runs every night. Japanese destroyers racing down the slot, the channel between the islands, delivering troops, supplies, artillery. The Navy can't stop them. American ships don't have radar good enough for night fighting. The Japanese have the best night fighting tactics in the world. Every night the Tokyo Express runs. Every morning, more Japanese soldiers are on the island. The Marines on Guadalcanal are cut off. The Navy can't protect them. Supply ships can't get through. They're eating captured Japanese rice. They're fighting dysentery, malaria, dengue fever. They're losing men to disease faster than combat. And every night, the Japanese attack. Banzai charges. Human wave assaults, thousands of soldiers screaming and running at Marine positions in the darkness. They're trying to overrun Henderson Field. If they take the airfield, they take the island. The Marines hold. Barely. September 1942. Paige is now platoon sergeant of 2nd Platoon, Company H, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines. The 7th Marines are new arrivals. Reinforcements for the battered 1st and 5th Marines who've been fighting since August. Paige's platoon gets assigned to a ridge south of Henderson Field, a low rise covered in kunai grass and scattered jungle. Not much cover, clear fields of fire, good defensive position if you have enough men. Paige has 33 men. October 1942. Japanese intelligence reports say only 10,000 Marines on Guadalcanal. The truth is closer to 20,000. But the Japanese don't know that. They plan one massive assault. 20,000 Japanese soldiers. The entire 17th Army under Lieutenant General Harukichi Hyakutake. They'll attack from multiple directions simultaneously. The main assault will hit the ridge south of Henderson Field. The ridge defended by 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines. The ridge where Mitchell Paige has 33 men and 4 machine guns. October 23rd. Japanese forces begin moving into position. Marine patrols report. Enemy troops massing. Lots of them. Radio intercepts suggest something big is coming. The Marines prepare. October 24th. Japanese artillery begins shelling Henderson Field. Heavy bombardment. The Marines dig deeper. Paige walks his defensive line. 4 machine gun positions. 33 men spread across 500 yards. If the Japanese hit with everything they have, it won't be enough. It can't be enough. October 25th. More shelling. Marine reconnaissance reports Japanese troops still moving. The assault is coming. Tonight or tomorrow. Paige checks his ammunition. Each machine gun has 1,600 rounds. 6,400 rounds total. Sounds like a lot until you do the math. At 450 rounds per minute, each gun has 3.5 minutes of continuous fire. The Japanese will attack for hours. October 26th, 3x a.m. Paige is awake. He's always awake. Nobody sleeps before an attack. You can feel it in the air. The Japanese artillery has stopped. That's the warning. When the shelling stops, the assault begins. 3:15 a.m. Japanese naval gunfire starts. Destroyers off the coast pounding the marine positions. The jungle explodes. Trees shatter. Kunai grass ignites. The ground shakes. The bombardment lasts 15 minutes. Then silence. In the silence, Paige hears something. Voices. Singing. The Japanese are singing their national anthem as they advance. Thousands of them. 3:30 a.m. They come out of the jungle. The first wave is 500 men. Maybe more. It's hard to count in darkness. They're running up the ridge, screaming, "Banzai!" Paige's machine guns open fire. The M1917s hammer out their distinctive rhythm. Red tracers arc through the darkness. Japanese soldiers fall. The first wave staggers. Men are dropping everywhere, but they keep coming. They step over their dead and keep running. The second wave emerges from the jungle. Another 500. The machine guns traverse. More Japanese fall, but the math is impossible. 4 guns, maybe 2,000 rounds per gun if they're careful. Thousands of Japanese soldiers. The Japanese reach 100 yards, 75 yards. The machine guns are firing non-stop. Barrels glowing red hot, water in the cooling jackets boiling. Empty shell casings pile up around the gun positions. 50 yards. The Japanese are throwing grenades. Paige's men are returning fire with rifles. The volume of fire is insane. Every Marine is shooting as fast as they can load. 4 a.m. The first Japanese soldier reaches a machine gun position. He's cut down by rifle fire, but more are coming. Paige runs to the position. His left flank gun. The crew is down to 2 men. He helps them repel the assault. Kills 3 Japanese soldiers at point-blank range with his pistol. Then he runs back to his command position. The center gun. 4:30 a.m. The third wave hits. The Japanese aren't stopping. They're not maneuvering. They're not using tactics. They're just charging. Wave after wave after wave, straight into the machine guns. They believe in the warrior spirit. They believe courage and determination can overcome bullets. They're wrong, but there's so many of them. Paige's right flank gun goes silent. He runs to check it. The entire crew is dead. 5 Marines, all dead. The gun is still functional. He grabs it. The M1917 weighs 41 pounds without the tripod. Paige picks it up. There's no time to set up properly. He hip-fires it. Impossible. The M1917 isn't designed for that. The recoil should throw him backwards. But Paige braces against a tree and fires. 50-round bursts. The Japanese assault on the right flank staggers. 5 a.m. The center gun jams. Paige is there in seconds. He clears the jam. A double feed. 2 rounds tried to chamber simultaneously. He has to disassemble the bolt. Do it in darkness. Japanese soldiers 30 yards away. He clears the jam. Reassembles the gun. 2 minutes. Feels like hours. The gun fires again. 5:30 a.m. The left flank gun crew is hit by a Japanese grenade. 2 men down. 1 dead. 1 wounded badly. Paige runs to the position. He becomes the gunner. The assistant gunner, a 19-year-old private from Iowa, feeds him belts. They fire 800 rounds in 90 seconds. The Japanese pull back. Not a retreat. A pause. Reorganizing for another assault. Paige checks his ammunition. Running low. Every position is running low. He redistributes what's left. Takes ammo from the dead. No time to think about that. No time to think about the men he's known for months lying in. Pieces around him. 6 a.m. The fourth wave. The Japanese have brought up reinforcements. Fresh troops. They hit all 3 remaining gun positions simultaneously. Paige is at the center gun. The assistant gunner is killed. Shot through the head. His body falls across the gun. Paige pushes him aside. No time for respect. No time for grief. He continues firing. Alone now. Loading his own belts. 1 hand on the gun, 1 hand feeding ammunition. The Japanese are 25 yards away. He can see. Their faces in the muzzle flashes. The gun runs dry. He grabs a rifle from a dead Marine. Fires. The rifle jams. He grabs another. Fires. The bolt locks back empty. He grabs his pistol. A .45 caliber M1911. 7 rounds. 7 Japanese soldiers. 7 bodies. The pistol is empty. The Japanese are 15 yards away. This is it. This is where Mitchell Paige dies. This is where the line breaks. Except it doesn't. Paige looks left. The left flank gun is still firing. 2 Marines. One of them is so badly wounded he can barely stand, but he's feeding ammunition while his buddy fires. Paige looks right. The right flank gun is silent. The entire crew is dead, but the gun is intact. Paige runs. 50 yards in full combat gear. Japanese bullets snapping past him. He reaches the gun, sets it up, starts firing. The Japanese hadn't expected this. They thought the right flank was broken. Suddenly there's a machine gun firing from a position that was silent. They hesitate. Paige exploits the hesitation. He traverses the gun, catches them in the open. 200-round burst. Sustained fire. The barrel is glowing orange. The water jacket is hissing. Steam is rising. Paige doesn't care. He keeps firing. 6:45 a.m. First light. The sky is turning gray. Paige can see the full scope of the Japanese assault now. Bodies everywhere. Hundreds of them, covering the slope, piled up in front of the machine gun positions. But more are coming. Always more. The Tokyo Express delivered 7,000 fresh troops last night. They're committed now. They have to take Henderson Field. They have to justify the losses. They keep attacking. Paige is alone on the right flank. Every other Marine in that position is dead or wounded. He's operating the machine gun by himself. Firing, loading, adjusting. The gun is so hot he can't touch the barrel. His hands are blistering from the heat radiating through the receiver. He wraps his hands in cloth torn from a dead Marine's shirt. Keeps firing. 7:00 a.m. Full daylight. The Japanese assault wavers. They've been attacking for 3.5 hours. They've suffered over 1,000 casualties just on this ridge, just against 33 Marines. The math shouldn't work, but machine guns don't care about math. Neither does Mitchell Paige. A runner arrives from battalion headquarters. A corporal. He's bringing 17 Marines. Stragglers, clerks, cooks, anyone who can hold a rifle. Sergeant Paige. Paige looks up from the gun. Yeah? Major Odell sent us. Said you need help. Paige laughs. It's not a happy sound. Help? Yeah, we need help. He stands up. His legs are shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. He's been fighting for 3.5 hours straight, but he's not done. Follow me. The 17 Marines look at the ridge, the bodies, the blood, the destroyed machine gun positions. One of them, a private, starts to shake. Paige grabs him by the collar. You scared? Yes, Sergeant. Good. Means you're not stupid. Now pick up that rifle and follow me. Paige does something insane. The Japanese are regrouping for another assault. They're 100 yards down the slope. Standard tactics say, dig in, hold position, wait for reinforcements. Mitchell Paige has never been particularly interested in standard tactics. Fix bayonets. The 17 Marines stare at him. Sergeant? I said fix bayonets. We're attacking. He grabs a machine gun. The barrel is still too hot to touch. He doesn't care. He lifts it. 41 pounds. Hip fires it. Follow me. Paige charges down the ridge. Alone. For 3 seconds, he's alone. A platoon sergeant running directly at a Japanese regiment, firing a machine gun from the hip, screaming. Then the 17 Marines follow. They don't know why. They don't know him. But something about the man running down that ridge makes them move. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's insanity. Maybe it's the same thing. The Japanese see them coming. 18 Marines charging 3,000 Japanese soldiers. It makes no tactical sense. The Japanese hesitate. That hesitation is fatal. Paige is firing as he runs. The M1917 bucking in his hands. Red tracers cutting through the morning light. Japanese soldiers fall. The 17 Marines are firing, running and shooting. Bayonets fixed. Screaming. The Japanese line breaks. It's impossible, but it happens. 3,000 Japanese soldiers see 18 Marines charging them, and they break. They retreat. They fall back into the jungle. Later, Japanese survivors will describe it. They say the Americans were everywhere. Machine guns firing from multiple positions. They say there must have been 200 Marines on that ridge. There were 18. There was Mitchell Paige moving between machine gun positions so fast they thought he was multiple soldiers. There was Mitchell Paige operating 3 guns by himself. There was Mitchell Paige refusing to die when any rational person would have surrendered. 8:00 a.m. The Japanese assault is broken. The ridge is secure. Henderson Field is safe. Paige walks back up the slope. He's moving like an old man, every muscle screaming. His hands are burned. His uniform is torn. He's covered in blood. Most of it isn't his. He reaches his command position, the center gun. 31 of his 33 men are dead or wounded. The 4 machine guns are still functional. Barely. Every barrel is warped from overheating. Every cooling jacket is empty. The ground is carpeted with brass shell casings. Thousands of them. Paige sits down. For the first time in 4 hours, he sits down. A corpsman approaches. Sergeant, you're wounded. Paige looks at his hands. The burns. He hadn't noticed. It's nothing. Sergeant, I need to. It's nothing. Check the others. The corpsman moves on. Paige just sits. The aftermath is counted over the next week. 1,400 Japanese soldiers dead on that ridge. Most of them killed by 4 machine guns. Most of them killed in a 500-yard stretch of jungle defended by 33 Marines. The Japanese had 3,000 soldiers in the assault force. They committed nearly half to attacking Paige's position. They believed it was the weakest point. They were wrong. Henderson Field remains in American hands. The campaign continues. The Japanese will fight for Guadalcanal until February 1943, but they'll never come that close again. October 26, 1942. That was the day. That was the moment when the Japanese offensive broke, not because of generals, not because of strategy, because a platoon sergeant from Pennsylvania decided that 33 men could hold against 3,000, because Mitchell Paige refused to accept that mathematics determined survival. The Medal of Honor recommendation goes up immediately. Major Odell, battalion commander, personally writes it. He describes what Paige did, how he operated multiple machine guns, how he led a counterattack with 17 stragglers, how he held that ridge when holding it seemed impossible. The recommendation goes to regiment, then division, then to Washington. Nobody questions it. What Paige did is beyond dispute. May 21, 1943. The White House. President Franklin Roosevelt places the Medal of Honor around Mitchell Paige's neck. The citation reads, "For extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry in action, above and beyond the call of duty, while serving with a company of Marines in combat against enemy Japanese forces in the Solomon Islands on October 26, 1942. When the enemy broke through the line directly in front of his position, Platoon Sergeant Paige, commanding a machine gun section with fearless determination, continued to direct the fire of his gunners until all his men were either killed or wounded. Alone, against the deadly hail of Japanese shells, he manned his gun, and when it was destroyed, took over another, moving from gun to gun, never ceasing his withering fire against the advancing hordes until reinforcements finally arrived. It doesn't capture everything. How can it? How do you describe 4 hours of sustained combat in one paragraph? How do you explain what it takes to keep fighting after watching 31 men die? How do you document the moment when one person decides they will not break, no matter what? You can't. The medal is shorthand, a piece of cloth and metal that says, "This person did something extraordinary." President Roosevelt understands. He shakes Paige's hand. "Sergeant, the nation owes you a debt it can never repay." Paige just nods. What do you say to that? The war continues. Paige could have gone home. Medal of Honor recipients can request stateside duty. Some do. After what they've been through, nobody judges them. Paige requests combat duty. He goes back to the Pacific. He fights on Vella La Vella. He fights on Bougainville. He's promoted to lieutenant, then captain. By the end of the war, he's served 9 years in the Marine Corps. He's fought in 4 campaigns. He's been wounded twice more. He's earned a Silver Star, a Purple Heart with 2 gold stars. But everyone remembers Guadalcanal. Everyone remembers the ridge. October 1945. The war ends. Paige faces a choice. He can stay in the Marines, make it a career, 30 years and a pension, or he can go home, back to Pennsylvania, back to normal life. He chooses civilian life. He's 27 years old. He's seen enough war. He goes to work for the U.S. Maritime Commission. Government work. Steady. Unglamorous. For a while, he's happy being anonymous. But 1950 brings Korea. The Marines are fighting again. Paige re-enlists. He's 32 years old. Ancient by infantry standards. They assign him to training duty, teaching new Marines how to use the Browning M19-17. The same gun, the same techniques. Some of his students are 18, the same age he was when he enlisted. He wonders if any of them will face what he faced. He hopes not. 1952. Paige retires from the Marines. Lieutenant Colonel. 21 years of service. He settles in La Quinta, California. Desert country. About as far from Guadalcanal's jungle as you can get. Maybe that's why he chose it. He remarries. His first marriage didn't survive the war. Most didn't. His second wife, Marilyn, understands. She knows not to ask about Guadalcanal. He never talks about it. For 40 years, Mitchell Paige lives quietly. He attends Medal of Honor ceremonies when invited. He speaks to Marine Corps groups occasionally, but mostly he just lives. He golfs. He enjoys the desert. He watches the news. He sees Vietnam. Sees another generation of young Marines fighting in jungles. He doesn't comment. What would he say? The Medal of Honor Society becomes important to him. Fellow recipients, men who understand. They have an annual convention. They tell stories, not war stories. Just stories about their lives, their families, normal things. November 15, 2003, La Quinta, California. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell Paige dies of Alzheimer's disease. He's 85 years old. They bury him at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 34, grave 2267. The headstone lists his rank, his decorations, Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Purple Heart, 2 presidential unit citations. It doesn't mention the ridge. It doesn't mention the 4 hours. It doesn't mention the 1,400 Japanese soldiers. Some things don't fit on headstones. The Marine Corps remembers. The Guadalcanal Veterans Association remembers. Every October 26th, Marines at posts around the world observe a moment of silence for the men who held the ridge, for the 31 who died, for Mitchell Paige, who refused to let them die for nothing. Here's what the story of Mitchell Paige tells us. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's not stupidity. It's not recklessness. Courage is understanding exactly how bad the situation is and deciding to fight anyway. On October 26, 1942, Mitchell Paige knew the math. 33 men couldn't stop 3,000. The mathematics of warfare said he should retreat. Tactics said he should fall back. Survival instinct said he should run. He did none of those things. He stayed. He fought. When his men died, he fought alone. When his guns failed, he found more guns. When the Japanese kept coming, he went to meet them. Not because he was fearless, because he had something more important than fearlessness: responsibility. 33 men trusted him. 20,000 Marines on Guadalcanal depended on Henderson Field. The entire Pacific campaign hinged on that island. Mitchell Paige understood the stakes. So he stood. For 4 hours he stood, alone at times, surrounded by death, operating machine guns that were never designed to be operated by one person, running between positions, loading, firing, moving, making the Japanese think they faced an army when they faced one stubborn sergeant from Pennsylvania. And when 17 stragglers arrived, when any rational person would have dug in and waited for more reinforcements, Paige attacked. He charged 3,000 Japanese soldiers with 18 Marines. The mathematics said he would die. He didn't. The Japanese line broke. They retreated. They never came that close to Henderson Field again. That's the story. Not the medals, not the citations. The story is simpler. One person deciding that impossible odds don't matter. One person refusing to accept that he was supposed to lose. One person standing on a ridge in the darkness, surrounded by death, and saying, "Not today, not here. You don't get past me." That's Mitchell Paige. That's what the Medal of Honor represents. Not superhuman abilities, not fearlessness, just one person doing what needed to be done, even when doing it seemed impossible. The United States Marine Corps has a saying, "No better friend, no worse enemy." They also have another one, less famous but equally true: hold until relieved. On October 26, 1942, Mitchell Paige held that ridge. He held it when 31 of his 33 men were casualties. He held it when every machine gun should have failed. He held it when the Japanese threw 3,000 soldiers at him. He held it because Marines don't retreat. They hold until relieved, or they die trying. Mitchell Paige held, and because he held, 20,000 Marines survived. Henderson Field remained operational. Guadalcanal stayed in American hands. The Japanese advance was stopped. One ridge, one night, one sergeant. The Japanese never understood what happened. Their after-action reports describe facing overwhelming firepower, multiple machine gun companies, hundreds of Marines. They describe being pushed back by a determined counterattack from a numerically superior force. They were wrong. They faced 33 Marines, then 18, then 1. They faced Mitchell Paige, who decided that the mathematics of warfare didn't apply to him. And in that moment, in those 4 hours of darkness and fire and death, he was right.